What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Football Fellas YouTube channel. My name is Lucas Wenzel. It has been a minute since I've been on one of these videos with you all, but today we are talking about the top 25 free agents this offseason in the NFL. Now, this isn't just a list of players who are free agents and that we use in fantasy football. We won't just be covering T. Higgins, Kirk Cousins, Saquon, Barkley. We are talking about the entire NFL, defensive interior, edge rushers, secondary, everything of the sorts, the top 25 free agents across the entire NFL in this video. Before we dive into that list, though, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you do that and make sure you turn on those notifications as well, because even though we aren't in fantasy football season, we are coming out with all sorts of content still for you this offseason. NFL content like this. Tyler's doing NFL mock drafts. We're going to get into some dynasty content as well. If you're in dynasty fantasy football leagues, we'll have some of that coming out for you as well. So make sure you subscribe. We still have content all year round for you. Turn on those notifications so you know when those videos are released. Without further ado, let's do it. Let's place these free agents into tier lists, and we are going to start in the S tier. We're going to work our way down. The S tier, look, I only have one player in this list, and it's Chris Jones, defensive interior on the Kansas City Chiefs, playing in the Super Bowl this upcoming Sunday. And it feels wrong that I only have one player in this tier, but if we're talking quarterbacks, edge rushers, wide receivers at this same caliber of Chris Jones, we're talking Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, TJ Watt, etc., right? There's a lot of guys in the A tier that we'll discuss that come really, really close. I mean, Chris Jones, this dude was second in pass rush win rate this year, despite being double teamed 72% of the time. And we know this offseason, he was looking for an extension, even held out first week of the season, wanted that extension, didn't get it. We'll see if he gets it this offseason, but Chris Jones is just a different tier of playmaker than almost every other free agent this year. Across the board, he is the number one free agent. And I think he's in the S tier by himself. We'll get to a little bit why as we dive into the A tier here now with, my gosh, there's a laundry list of names here in the A tier, but you'll understand why as we go through them. The A tier consists for me of Kirk Cousins, T. Higgins, Josh Allen of the Jacksonville Jaguars, edge rusher, not to be confused with the Buffalo Bills quarterback, Brian Burns, Justin Madubuike, Christian Wilkins, Antoine Winfield Jr., Jalen Johnson, L'Jarius Sneed. We're going to cover all those names here. I'm going to kind of fly through them because I don't want to burn up too much time. But let's start with Kirk Cousins, all right? So he is easily the top quarterback free agent of this class. Baker Mayfield comes in at number 2, but I mean, Kirk and Baker, right? We're talking two different tiers of quarterback here. Look, he's looked phenomenal in Kevin O'Connell's offense over the last few seasons. And he was tracking to have another high caliber season. I know it was premature to have MVP conversations, but Kirk Cousins was quietly inserting himself kind of into the bottom floor of the MVP conversation. And he's obviously dealing with an Achilles injury now that shut down his season. Was brutal for the Vikings, but I think Kirk has still proven he's got the touch and accuracy at all three levels of the field where he will be, how do I want to phrase this? He will be a desired commodity for an NFL team. It sounds like Minnesota wants him back. Kirk has already said he'll take a hometown discount, if you will, to stay with the Vikings. But I mean, look, if the Vikings don't take him back, teams like the Falcons, the Patriots will probably be after him as well. Teams that need a quarterback, the Falcons especially, when they have all that receiving talent, that offensive talent, they just need someone to put it together. But Kirk Cousins, he is the first player in this A tier. Let's move on to T. Higgins, then the other player in this A tier. The big bother here for T. Higgins is the injuries, but the talent, I think the talent is undeniable. I think we all know this. It's on pace for 1,300 plus yards in 2021 with Jamar Chase. He didn't play the entire season. He had another 1,000-yard season in 2022. Now, obviously, this last year dealt with injuries and not hit that mark, but he's this dual threat of not only giving you a field stretcher, but he's a contested catch beast as well. He'll go up and get one for you if you need him to. And that is just so valuable. And frankly, I think the Bengals will likely franchise tag him despite, I don't want to call it misuse of cap management, but the Bengals essentially on rookie deals. I can't remember where I heard the source from now, but they essentially had the fewest amount of was it snaps or minutes played by players on rookie contracts. So by paying T. Higgins, they're taking some time away from those young guys, some of those developmental guys to leave room for other big contracts that need to come eventually. But we'll see. If the Bengals don't franchise tag him, he'll have plenty of suitors in free agency. He'll get a nice big contract there. Nothing to worry about if you're T. Higgins. But let's move on to Josh Allen. I'm going to kind of pair Josh Allen and Brian Burns together. I do have Josh Allen. They're in the same tier, but I have Josh Allen ahead of Brian Burns. Look, he had a phenomenal 2023 campaign, all right? 90 quarterback pressures, 33 quarterback hits, 19 sacks, and 17 tackles for loss. Like, Josh Allen is like just below that S tier of players, but look, the potential is absolutely there. He looked phenomenal this year. And Brian Burns, like, I pray this is the year he gets out of Carolina because he was 21% pass rush win rate this year. Excuse me. That was 11th best amongst edge rushers. It wasn't his best year statistically, but he remains one of the most talented options in this class. Carolina just would not trade him. Hopefully this is the year he gets out of Carolina and can get out of that. I don't want to call it a losing culture, but kind of what it's been at the same time. So hopefully Brian Burns gets out of there, but he's also in this A tier. We'll talk about the interior guys next. Justin Madubuike. Look, 13 sacks is the number to take note of here. All right. His previous career high was 5.5 last year. Over doubles that. And he also had career highs in solo tackles, assists, quarterback hits, and tackles for loss as well. And Christian Wilkins, I mean, very similarly, set career highs in sacks and quarterback hits, but he also had career highs in pass rush win rate, and pressure rate as well. So Wilkins and Madubuike, they are cream of the crop. My goodness, cream of the crop for defensive interior after Chris Jones. But again, these are two guys with immense upside, are definitely top tier in this class as well. We'll move into the secondary. Antoine Winfield Jr. Look, the versatility here is nuts with this guy. I was begging the Minnesota Vikings to take him his rookie season. The draft prior to his rookie season, Look, he can be a deep roaming safety. Can cover cover slot wide receivers. You even see him line up in the box sometimes, which is just crazy. Yeah, career highs across the board for him this year. Interceptions, forced fumbles, sacks, tackles, assists, everything in the sorts. Antoine Winfield, like, one of the best safeties in football. I've definitely belongs in this A tier. Again, just not quite in that S tier, but certainly belongs in this A tier. And we'll wrap it up with the cornerbacks then, Jalen Johnson and L'Jarius Sneed. Jalen Johnson made the case of being one of the best corners in the NFL this year. He played phenomenal this year. You love that he's both physical and technical, and I love this for PFF as well. He hasn't allowed a 60% completion rate in coverage through any season of his NFL career, which is just nuts. That is a crazy stat. So Jalen Johnson, he belongs in this A tier. And then L'Jarius Sneed after the season he's had. My gosh. Aggressiveness is his calling card here, all right? You don't like the penalties that he racks up because of it, but this dude is suffocating. He is tough to shake in coverage. He got moved out wide this year after playing in the slot for most of his career, and he has just been a problem for wide receivers this year. So any team is going to be happy with his inside-outside versatility, his physicality, his aggressiveness. L'Jarius Sneed belongs in this A tier as well. So there we go. We wrap out the A tier there. It might seem like I'm flying through this, but we got to cover 25 players in 20 minutes. I got to keep the pace up here. Otherwise, we are never going to make it through this list. So there you go. Your A tier of Kirk Cousins, T. Higgins, Josh Allen, Brian Burns, Justin Madubuike, Christian Wilkins, Antoine Winfield Jr., Jalen Johnson, and L'Jarius Sneed. Let's move on to the B tier now. Kicking off the B tier, I'll list them first. Here we go. In the B tier, we have Michael Pittman Jr., Daniil Hunter, Leonard Williams, Mike Evans, and Kendall Fuller, previously the Washington Commanders cornerback for the team. But let's start with Michael Pittman Jr., all right, because I think we need to discuss what separates him from T. Higgins, right? It seems like these two guys are kind of the top two in the class. But what separates Higgins from Pittman is their play style. It's their calling cards, their archetype, all right? Because Pittman, he is great close to the line of scrimmage, but he just isn't in the same tier athletically as T. Higgins. Pittman, look, he's a top-notch possession wide receiver, but we have yet to see his game kind of expand to being a consistent winner on the outside, a consistent down-the-field threat. Everything is very close to the line of scrimmage for him. T. Higgins, he can be that, but if he can go down the field and get you one as well, he can truly spark some dynamite plays on offense. But that being said, for Michael Pittman, he's coming off the best campaign of his career. 109 receptions, 156 targets for over 1,150 yards, 513 of which were after the catch. So look, Michael Pittman, phenomenal talent. I think he is one of the best free agents in this class, but I think he just misses out on that A tier because he's not quite in that same caliber or tier as T. Higgins, but Michael Pittman by far is one of the most talented wide receivers in this class, the second most talented wide receiver in the class by my books. But let's move on. We'll move on to edge rusher Danielle Hunter, longtime Minnesota Viking. If you recall in previous seasons, there was contract disputes and he was injured. He wanted more money. We knew how talented he was, but can he stay on the field? Now he might get the chance to actually go out and get his bag in free agency because he absolutely feasted in Brian Flores' system this year, his aggressive blitzing system. I mean, career highs for Danielle Hunter. 16 and a half sacks, career high in tackles, assists, tackles for loss. Any team that needs help getting after the quarterback, and like if you want to throw in the bonus, they run a 3-4 like Flores runs as well. They would absolutely benefit from Danielle Hunter's services. If a team needs help getting after the quarterback, Danielle Hunter is their guy this offseason, especially off the edge. He falls into this B tier. I think there's potentially could jump up into the A tier, but there's a little bit of injury history in the past. Just pump the brakes on him a little bit. But I love Danielle Hunter. I've loved watching him as a Minnesota Vikings fan. He has been phenomenal here in Minnesota. I'm assuming we won't bring him back, and he will be missed on our defensive line. But Danielle Hunter falls into this B tier. We'll go to the interior now. Leonard Williams. The thing with Leonard Williams is that he's always been a great run stopper, but there's always been these lingering questions about his pass rush ability. So you'd like to see him get back to, his 2020 numbers where he had 11 and a half sacks, 42 pressures, and 30 quarterback hits. Those numbers have just drastically taken a hit over the last few seasons. I don't know if we'll ever get Leonard Williams back to that mark, but teams for sure, what they're going to be getting is a run stopping force with the optimism that his pass rush is improving on the bounce back season that he did have this year, because we did see his pass rush metrics increase this season, but not by a substantial amount. So you have that optimism of, hey, 2020 is there. We saw it improve a bit this season. Can we get back to, even 80% of what he gave us in 2020? So that's the thing with Leonard Williams. He's a great run stopper. He belongs in this B tier, but obviously there are things that keep him out of that A tier. Let's move on to Mike Evans, though, another wide receiver. I don't know how much I really need to tell you about Mike Evans. 10 straight seasons of 1,000 plus yards and 13 plus touchdowns in 3 of the last 4 years. I mean, the man has been as consistent as they come. And even at 30 years old, right? He's still getting it done. So he could earn some good money this offseason with the consistency he's displayed. I would frankly be shocked if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers didn't bring him back, if they didn't even just slap the franchise tag on him for 1 year to figure out, all right, what are we working with here? We just lost Dave Canales. We have Baker Mayfield probably a quarterback still. Can we run it back with this crew? It wouldn't surprise me if they slap the franchise tag on him just for this year, but maybe he will get a taste of free agency and we'll see where he ends up. He would be a fun one to see if he lands on a new team this offseason. But lastly, in the B tier, we have Kendall Fuller. Now, the Commanders cornerback room, I mean, they were just abysmal this year. There's no other way to put it. But he's kind of the sliver of hope coming out of that cornerback room. Look, Kendall Fuller, he has experience pretty much everywhere in the secondary. He's played safety, he's been slot corner, he's played on the outside now. He's strung together a solid season still, despite, again, just being in an abysmal secondary. I think he'll command a nice contract in free agency. He's not overly flashy, but some team is going to benefit from him, whether he's, their lead cornerback, their cornerback too, if he's playing alongside, a bigger name, a more prevalent name in the secondary. But Kendall Fuller, he should be able to command a nice contract this year. A relatively nice season for him, despite the Washington Commanders' struggles. So there we go. Wrapping out the B tier, Michael Pittman Jr., Danielle Hunter, Leonard Williams, Mike Evans, and Kendall Fuller. We're going to keep it moving here now. Let's crank out the C tier. C tier, we got Chase Young. We have Bryce Huff, DJ Reader, Saquon Barkley, and Josh Jacobs. I'm going to be, and Tyron Smith. Excuse me. I didn't throw Tyron Smith in here. Oh, and he's not even on my screen, too. you know what I'll do? I'm going to go in afterwards. I'm going to make sure we get Tyron Smith in here. Oh, that's funny. He'll be on the end here after Josh Jacobs here. I forgot to throw him in, but I do have Tyron Smith on my list. We will cover him as well. Chase Young, look, he's finally fully healthy in 2023. Thank goodness, because that man coming out of Ohio State was supposed to be a monster. He was going to be an animal, but the thing with Chase Young is we've seen him be a very, very good run stopper. His strength is in stopping the run. And now we've seen him improve as a pass rusher this year. And I think working with this 49ers, defensive group is no small thing prior to him hitting free agency. I don't know if the 49ers are going to bring him back, but if Chase Young is going to, build back up the hype that he had, as a number 2 overall pick when he was drafted, I think we need to see some improvement on his pass rush. I think if he continues, imploring his strength of stopping the run, he'll be just fine. But we really want to see Chase Young get after the quarterback more. And I think working with the 49ers this season will hopefully help with that as he hits free agency. Because I have him next to my notes, I have Tyron Smith here. So I'll jump to him next, even though he's on the end. Look, there's no question that he's a high-quality tackle, all right? The Cowboys have greatly benefited from his services since 2011, but the problem is that he's 33 and he's struggling with injuries. I mean, that is just it's crippling, really, for what his market could potentially be. So he'll be a benefit wherever he lands, but we're looking at 1-year deals from here on out from Tyron Smith probably. So Bryce Huff, then we'll move on to him. There's not much more to add to Tyron Smith. He's been great. He's been great for the Dallas Cowboys. He's been a sturdy force there on the outside of their offensive line, but man, you know what? Injuries have really hurt his value. Bryce Huff, though, for the New York Jets, he was 8th in pass rush win rate this year amongst edge rushers. Tracked up a career high 10 sacks. His previous career high was 3.5. And 21 quarterback hits this year as well. His previous career high there was 10. So while Bryce Huff, he clearly excels in the pass rush, the thing is his run defense leaves a lot to be desired. All right. The Jets would proactively not use him against the run on defense. So that's what you get for being a predominant pass rusher. If that's your great strength, phenomenal. But the thing is, you're not going to get these upper tier contracts, that guys in the A tier, S tier are probably going to get, even in the B tier, right? Teams know that is his calling card, but if he can't round out his game defending the run as well, that's going to kind of hinder him in free agency. But that's what keeps him in the C tier here. We'll move on to DJ Reader then. What keeps DJ Reader in the C tier as well? Look, he had a torn quadriceps injury in week 15, so that's probably going to impact his market this offseason. So while he's no Chris Jones, he still controls the line of scrimmage really well, and he really pushes the pocket, which is incredibly valuable. If you just want a consistent, sturdy interior presence, Reader is the guy. You can bring him in on a relatively good deal, I think, and he can be that sturdy interior presence for you while freeing up some other guys on the outside as well to get to the quarterback. So let's get to these running backs now, though. All right, because we have Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs in this tier. Now, some people would say no, they're not even top 25. Free agents this offseason. I would beg to differ because I think both of these guys still have something in the tank. I think Saquon specifically, he just needs to stay healthy. And frankly, he needs to find a better situation than the New York Giants. I should have done better research on this. I don't even know if I want to mention it. I saw something about the Chargers in the mix. I don't know how true that is. I don't know how good of a reliable of a source that is. But what's really in Saquon's favor, though, and really all these running backs' favors, is that this incoming class of rookie running backs, the 2024 class of running backs, is relatively weak. It's not that strong. So teams that may need an extra boost to the running back room may actually look to free agency instead. You got Blake Corum and others in this class, but it's not that great of a running back class, right? So teams that may, want to take a guy, second, third round and fire him up right away, they're just not going to be as effective as they were, as Ken Walker in the second round, right? Reese Hall in the second round, right? They're not going to be any of those guys in this class. So maybe they look to free agency, they look to a Saquon Barkley or a Josh Jacobs, because the case for Josh Jacobs is relatively the same as Saquon Barkley, right? considering he's slightly younger, I think there's still juice left in the tank there for him. He can run downhill. He gets involved in the passing game like Saquon Barkley, et cetera, right? He falls into the same tier, I think. So Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley, they wrap out the C tier here with Chase Young, Tyron Smith, Bryce Huff, DJ Reader, and these two running backs, Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs. So let's wrap it up here now. Let's bring it home with the D tier, where we have Kyle Duggar, Marquise Brown, Calvin Ridley, and the king, Derrick Henry. Now, that one might be a little bit controversial as well. If you want to claim I don't know ball in the comments, go right ahead. But I think once you get down to, some of these guys, in the 20s, I mean, really, it's really about preference. And maybe it's more of a personal conviction for me on Derrick Henry. We'll get to him, though. We'll talk about Kyle Duggar first, because he's first on our list. Look, he's a great run stopper. He fit the Bill Belichick scheme extremely well. Now, Bill Belichick isn't there anymore, which we'll see where he ends up. But the pass defense is just not as great as his run stop game, though, all right? Because it's not really a weakness. He can hold his own. I'm curious to see where he ends up, though. I'm curious to see how much of this Bill Belichick scheme benefit of Kyle Duggar, where he can kind of play the safety linebacker duo, be great against stopping the run, but kind of get away with not having to be as great in coverage. But I'm intrigued to see where Kyle Duggar ends up this offseason. I think he will be a benefit to wherever he goes. Let's talk about these wide receivers, though, Marquise Brown and Calvin Ridley. Let's just name the reality with Marquise Brown, all right? He's 5'9", 180 pounds, and an outside wide receiver. He doesn't play in the slot. So while he could be a field stretcher, possession guy underneath if you need him to, he's just small, and that's the reality, right? The market for him, I don't think, is going to be as, hefty as a T. Higgins, as a Michael Pittman, as a Mike Evans, but I really hope he lands in a situation where he can be a stellar wide receiver too. I mean, when he played alongside DeAndre Hopkins, he looked great. But if he lands as a wide receiver one somewhere, I better hope he gets the, 2022 Christian Kirk treatment where, we're going to pay all this money because we want to feed you the football, right? Like, that's what I think you have to hope for with Marquise Brown this offseason. But again, the reality, he's 5'9", 180-pound outside wide receiver. He falls below this tier of, Mike Evans and Michael Pittman, and obviously T. Higgins as well. So Marquise Brown, I do think he's the fourth best wide receiver in this class. Calvin Ridley, you can make a case that he might actually be fourth best, but he was just so hit or miss this year, right? One game he was dynamite, and then the next game he was poof, absolutely gone. He disappeared. So nothing about Ridley's game, though, looks terribly off. He still displayed dynamic speed and the traits of an alpha wide receiver one, but those inconsistencies, man, they were just scary this year. So Calvin Ridley, he falls into this D tier because it seems like he still has it. There's also a ton of question marks around, does he still have it or not, to just put it plainly. And lastly, we'll wrap it out here with King Derrick Henry. Again, this is more so a personal conviction that I have him in this list. I know he's 31, coming off of a very poor 2023 campaign by typical standards for Derrick Henry. I think I'm willing to chalk that up to some of that up, not all of it, because I do think Derrick Henry is regressing, but I do think we can chalk some of that up to a bottom three offensive line last year. I mean, the Titans offensive line was putrid last year. So I think there is room for Derrick Henry to have two more serviceable seasons. Do not hear me say Derrick Henry could be great for the next two seasons. I think there's opportunity for him to be serviceable these next two seasons, especially, again, when we look at the 2024 rookie draft class. What says these teams don't go out and say, you know what, instead of getting, a year or two of one of these young guys, why don't we just run the wheels off of Derrick Henry? Philadelphia Eagles without DeAndre Swift? Hey, anybody? Look, I think it's really dependent on his landing spot, though. If he goes back, I don't think he'll go back to Tennessee. It seemed like it was goodbye there. If he goes back there, I'm not too excited. If he goes to a team that doesn't have a strong run game or not a great offensive line for the run game, I'm not too interested there. But if he lands in a good situation, I think there is a chance that we see Derrick Henry turn in, one or two productive and serviceable seasons to close out his career. So there we go. D tier one last time. We'll run through it quick. Kyle Duggar, Marquise Brown, Calvin Ridley, Derrick Henry. And that is all I have for you today. That is it. The top 25 free agents in this class put into tiers. Man, we flew through that. Thanks for tuning into this episode on the Fantasy Football Fellas YouTube channel. Again, if you're not subscribed, make sure you turn on those notifications. You'll know when all of our new videos are up. Then I'm like, I feel like I had something else to say there. No, that was the end of my sentence. You'll know when all of our new videos are up. We got a podcast coming every week. We're gonna get into some dynasty rankings next week. We'll do some more tier lists as well. So that will be exciting. Make sure you follow us on the socials as well. FFL is on Twitter. The FFL is on Instagram. Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook, TikTok, and here on YouTube. If you want to follow me personally, I post stuff over on Twitter as well. I am at Lucas Wenzel over there. You can see it right on the screen here. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching this video. Till we see you next time, stay safe, stay healthy. Enjoy the Super Bowl this week. I got to remember that. Super Bowl's on Sunday, man. Of course, the Super Bowl's on Sunday. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We will see you all next week. Deuces.